Hey everybody, welcome back to this Megadeth album review series. We are up at it in 2011 here with Megadeth 13. And this album, for one, very cool album cover, like Vic Rattlehead, kind of epic looking. He's in a coffin back there. Always thought that was a pretty cool looking cover. We do get to see David Ellefson back on bass on this one, so that's a good welcome addition back into the band on this lineup here. I know this lineup's kind of been evolving, changing all throughout the discography here, but yeah, we got, this was the only change from the last time, Chris Broderick's on guitar and everything, so, but good to have David Ellefson back for sure on this album, as he makes his presence known like he does anytime he's up in Megadeth, that's for sure. But yeah, this one, very, very solid production on this one. Unlike the last maybe album or two, if I'm getting my timeline right here, this is one that I have really revisited a good chunk of time, amount of times. Unlike, again, like In Game, that was one where I kind of hadn't listened to too many times compared to some of these others. This one was one that I have listened to a good amount of times. So, but it was still fun to dive back in and rediscover. I mean, even anytime you listen to an album, you might find little things that it doesn't matter how many times you listen to it, you might find new little things that kind of pique your interest, right? But let's dive into it with the opening track, which I think serves as a perfect opening track. We're talking about Sudden Death. Awesome track with an awesome riff. Very speedy, kind of sets the tone for the album, which is exactly what an opener should do. You kind of, again, the production really shines on this one. You get some of that aggressiveness going right off the bat with this one. And I think this is in the upper echelon of tracks on this album for sure. I mean, this really lets you know what this thing's going to be all about. Then we go with track number 2, probably my second or third favorite off here. We're talking about Public Enemy number 1. Always love this one. It's so hooky with even the verses. Hell, I mean, the verses might be hookier than the chorus itself, right? I love that main riff going on throughout this one, and this has always been just a straight up Megadeth classic to me. I mean that not as like one of the legendary tracks or whatever, but one that is a massive, if I'm thinking of this era of Megadeth, this is one of those tracks that stands out big time for sure. Public Enemy number 1 is a top tier freaking track, that's for sure. Again, probably the second or third favorite for me, which that also maybe the second or third favorite. Public Enemy number 1 and this one's kind of interchangeable for me, is Whose Life Is It Anyways. I love this one. I love the little fill before the chorus, which you kind of will see that a lot on this album. These little fills, at least for me, I really dig. This is one of those too, where that happens. And another very hooky chorus for the guys here. The riff on this one is absolutely sick. This is one of my top favorites for sure. This has always been one of my favorites off here as well. Again, there's still, you'll find out soon enough what that definite number 1 for me is off this album. But Whose Life Is It Anyways and Public Enemy number 1 are both kind of interchangeable for those second and third spots for me as far as my favorites go. Then we go with We the People. This is a cool one. I like the lyrics on this one. Another really aggressive track here. The heaviness is there. It's kind of following those themes again of the government corruption and all that stuff, that they like to dive into. So cool lyrics with that and everything. And this is one that, this is one that I kind of forgot about a little bit. Because even though, like I said, I have revisited this album a good chunk of times, it's been a minute since I have listened to it. So that was one that I did kind of forget about, but it's a really, really good one. I really like this, and I think it fits on this album perfectly. Then we go with Guns, Drugs, and Money. This is another one that's up in that echelon, probably at maybe a number 4 spot if we were to rank them as my favorites or whatever. But as we all know, that's kind of forever changing, right? As you listen to album stuff shifts around a lot. But Guns, Drugs, and Money is one of my favorites off here. Definitely a heavy hitter. Another one where I like the lyrics kind of going into, dealing with corruption, even, uh, greed and things like that. So the lyrics are really cool. I love, this is another one where I love the little fill, these licks that whether it's Mustaine or Broderick or both shifting off, throughout these little licks that are going on in a lot of these songs, pre-chorus are just absolutely sick and are just, they're hooks in of themselves for me. I'm like, damn, and this is one that has that for sure. Then we go with Never Dead, and this is a really cool one. I like how chuggy this one is. Not entirely an offbeat, but just kind of like a little offbeat, and of course in a good way, as far as like the verse and everything and that riff that's going on. I really like the ending of this one, how it kind of ends on a softer note and everything kind of makes it feel like the ending of a story there. Never Dead is an awesome one. One of the heavier tracks off here too. The speed's all there. You're getting all those essential Megadeth ingredients right here on this track, as well as like we've seen on a lot of these so far on this album. Then we go with New World Order, and this one's cool, kind of a different sound. I like the chorus on this one. And I like, again, the lyrics. When anytime they talk about that sort of thing is interesting to me. And so that kind of fits with this theme. And this kind of, it seems like over this kind of era of the 2010s and even now the 2020s of Megadeth have seemed to dive more and more into like these type of New World Order themes and things like that, which to me is cool. As we all see the world going a little bit crazier day after day, right? It definitely, these lyrics start to ring more and more true, right? But very, very cool song, and it's definitely a standout on here, the kind of the way it's structured, sang, and just the vocal work on it. And now we get to my least favorite for sure here and I kind of forgot about this one, Fast Lane. Just a little corny to me, driving your car fast, and it seems like it's a filler track. Maybe they were really wanting to try to get this thing to 13 tracks to fit the 13 theme or whatever, but maybe they just threw this one on here. It just seems kind of like a little bit of a lazy track for me. I'll say it's got the speed. I don't think it's terrible, but it's got the speed going for it. The solo sticks out on it. It's pretty cool. But the best part about this track is the outro solo that kind of bleeds over, like, ends kind of shredding fast and everything and bleeds over to track number 9, which is my favorite off here. We're talking about Black Swan. This is an all-time great Megadeth track for me. I love it just bombards you with just that crazy shredding going on right off the bat. And then you get this just badass riff going on, and man, I love this song. I love the lyrics. I love how the chorus, I love the build up to the chorus, and the Black Swan that keeps haunting me. That's such a cool delivery, and that chorus. Absolutely love it. And man, this is an all-time great Megadeth track for me, for sure. And I think it's a really underrated track, as well as really this album's underrated in general. But Black Swan, easily, with no doubt about it, my number one favorite off here. Always has been. Freaking love that song. Then we go to track number 10 with Wrecker. And this is another one that is kind of seems like a filler track to me. It's got kind of interesting lyrics. You're talking about a home wrecker, right? Somebody cheating or whatever. But, it kind of is the same with, kind of falls under the same banner with Fast Lane for me. It's just kind of like, it's got some cool moments. The solo's cool. The speed's there and everything, but it just seems like a little bit of a filler track to me. I don't hate it. And same with Fast Lane. I don't think they're terrible tracks, but they're just, a little corny and a little, just not my deal. Not my deal. Then we go with Millennium of the Blind, and this one's cool. This one's pretty kind of a dark track. It's kind of slower, but even when in its slowness, it's really heavy. I mean, like, there's like a kind of evil sounding, even in like the chorus and everything. And definitely the slowest track on here, but that's not, well, maybe the final track is up there as far as the slowest tracks go as well, but not to their detriment at all. I mean, and in fact, it plays well. I mean, this is a really heavy track, and just kind of has this the vocal deliveries really makes it heavy too, and just that kind of, it feels like you're building up anticipation whenever that things start kicking in heavier on this track. So Millennium of the Blind is a really cool one. I did kind of forget about that one as well. Then we go with track number 12, Deadly Nightshade. This is a cool one. I like the lyrics on this one. David Ellison's bass work. He's got a really cool bass line going on in this one that's a standout. Really cool. Again, the lyrics are awesome on here. I like the chorus. It's a hooky one. Fits well on this album for sure. Not one of my absolute favorites off here, but I wouldn't throw it with like Fastlane and Wrecker as being kind of filler tracks at all. I do think this is a cool track. Deadly Nightshade's solid, but kind of is now near the bottom for me as my favorite tracks. Then we close out with 13, the title track, which I think is a perfect closer for the album. And it kind of, it's wrapping things up, kind of, Dave's kind of reflected on his life, I guess, with the band and everything. So it kind of leaves you kind of reflecting, at the end, a really solid conclusion on this track. And really wraps things up. I would say it's kind of near the bottom area as well, kind of around probably where I'd throw maybe Millennium of the Blind as far as my favorites go, but I do think it serves its purpose very well, and it's a solid track for sure. So yeah, 13 tracks on this thing. Maybe that was a little bit to the album's detriment. I mean, I don't think it was. I mean, first off, I actually love this album, right? I think it's awesome. But I do think maybe they could have cut Fastlane and Wrecker, but I get they were trying to do this whole 13 songs on here. But I think this album's great. I really do. I've heard a lot of people shit on this one. And maybe I'm wrong, but maybe other people are wrong, but I've heard people say that this was like leftover stuff that they just kind of ended up throwing on it. I don't know. I've not delved into that a lot, but I've always really, really dug 13. You get tracks like Sudden Death, Public Enemy #1, Whose Life Is It Anyways, Guns, Drugs, and Money, Never Dead, Black Swan. I think this is a very, very well-paced album and has just some incredible, incredible hidden gems, especially Black Swan. That is such a hidden gem track that you don't really hear people talk about. But, again, I hear a lot of people kind of dog on this album a lot. But me, I'm not one of them. Those other two tracks, you can kind of take them or leave them for me with Wrecker and Fastlane, but that ain't enough to really put any extra weight on trying to pull this album down for me or anything. I think this is a great, great Megadeth album and a great one to start off the 2010s for the band. So, anyways, guys, I definitely want to hear your thoughts on this one. Are you kind of in that group of people who's never really been a big fan? Because, I get it. For everybody's got their preferences or anything and everything on here, but for me, I've never really understood the hate. So I definitely, if you're one of those that is not the biggest fans of this one, I would love to hear your thoughts on why and your reasons why on it. Maybe it's because maybe you think tracks sound more filler than I do, besides the other two. But I think this is loaded with some great stuff, and one that definitely. And who knows, maybe it'll age even better for a lot of people over time. But I love 13. I think it's a great album. So I would love to get some discussion going on about this one down there. Of course, next time we look at the ever so controversial Super Collider. So that'll be fun to delve back into. I'll go and admit it as not one I've really returned to that much either. So that'll be interesting to kind of jump back into. So stay tuned for that when we look at Super Collider, guys. Anyways, like, subscribe, comment, and thanks so much for watching.